This is Sales Management Mastery, episode 28.
Welcome to Sales Management Mastery, where you get an insider's look on how to build, motivate, coach, and lead a high-performance, low-maintenance sales team. Here's your host, Ralph Burns.
Hello and welcome to Sales Management Mastery online at salesmanagementmastery.com. And we're here to help you and your sales managers build a team of highly motivated, elite salespeople using easy-to-use, real-world sales management techniques, strategies, and tactics that'll unleash a flood of new sales for your sales organization. On this week's episode of Sales Management Mastery, we give you the second half of our How to Motivate Your Most Difficult Sales Rep with 4 ways to motivate your toughest salespeople. I'd like to remind you that if you'd like to get a jump start on creating your own team of supercharged salespeople using our proven system, you can claim your free training course of your choice, including our most popular training of all time, How to Motivate Your Sales Team to Peak Performance at the Sales Management Mastery Academy by going to salestraininggift.com. Now, in last week's show, we went into an overview of the power salesperson, the person that's primarily motivated by assertiveness, knowledge, independence. We really didn't talk about knowledge all that much, but that's something that you can actually get through our motivational profile questionnaire, which is for our paid members inside the Sales Management Mastery Academy. But this type of sales rep, as we had mentioned last week, is usually your most difficult salesperson, but oftentimes it's a double-edged sword. They're the most difficult to deal with, but secondarily, they're oftentimes your most successful and your best salespeople. So you certainly don't want to ignore them, and you don't want to discount them. Most often they are in the minority in your sales group, like we had said last week. If you've got 10 salespeople, this is probably maybe 1 or maybe 2 of them are in this personality profile, this motivational profile of power, but typically they are in the minority, but they're the ones who you can really use and leverage to make yourself a better sales manager, but also you can use and leverage their talents to increase your own effectiveness as a sales team to move sales in the right direction, especially in the economic times that we're dealing with right now. So we're going to give you 4 separate techniques to use to harness the talent of these power salespeople. So number 1 is that the sales manager, you that is, doesn't have to win every confrontation with this type of sales rep. And the key is not to engage in any conflict at all, if at all possible, is to avoid it. This doesn't mean that you're cowardly and you're avoiding conflict, but if there's conflict that doesn't necessarily need resolution or doesn't really have any bearing on your overarching goals, then you don't need to fight it. So remind yourself that, and those of you who are students of American history, and we certainly are here at the Sales Management Mastery Academy, but often our international members are amazed at how much they know about American history as well. Remind yourself that George Washington, when he was fighting the American Revolutionary War, actually lost 90% of all his battles in the American Revolution, but he ended up winning the war. And the same could be said of the Civil War. The North lost the majority of the battles in the Civil War, but they ended up winning the war. So it's the same kind of thing here, is that you can avoid battles that just aren't important, and maybe even lose some of the small battles that are less important, just to sort of give them a surge of their own power. And this gives them what we call a power influx, which is highly motivating to the power salesperson. And remember last week, and we're going to continue to say this over and over again here on the show, is that they're not looking to take away your power. They're looking just to get some of their own power. And you can do that by using this particular technique here. It's not to even engage at all, or maybe just lose the little battles, the little ones that don't really matter all that much. And that ends up creating an environment of motivation for them. And the more highly motivated your salespeople are, the more likely they are to achieve your sales objectives and to exceed your quota, your goal, your plan, whatever it is that your benchmark is for sales success in your organization. Number 2 is motivational leadership lead by being led. And this is something that we've talked about in earlier shows just as a basic motivational strategy and a leadership strategy that you should certainly adopt. But specifically in the case of the power salesperson, this is very, very motivating for them. And power salespeople love to be included in on the decision-making process and also crave a certain amount of responsibility, some more than others, obviously. But you can capitalize on these 2 traits by empowering them to help you in making policy decisions whenever you can and whenever it's appropriate. And when you give that power away, you maintain your authority by what we call shepherding, or sort of moving the process forward. It doesn't matter how you move it forward, just as long as it's the right thing to move forward. And if you can pull along, or you can even be pushed along by your salespeople towards the right decision, and it helps everyone in the process, then you've become that more of an effective sales leader in that particular case. So allow the sales rep to make their own decision. What happens here is that they become fully vested in the successful execution of that decision. And this is an enormous motivational factor in its successful completion. And likewise, you can turn dissenters into followers by just including them in on that decision-making process. And for example, one of my power salespeople, we were discussing in a sales meeting a computer training that we were supposed to do, and it was sanctioned by our corporate departments. And they said we have to do this training. We were all trying to decide as to whether or not we should do the training and at what time we should do it and what day and so forth. And the power salesperson, who stood up in the middle of the room, said, I don't think we should ever do this training. It's a total waste of time, obviously highly opinionated. When we discussed it through with the other 9 salespeople, we all collectively agreed. We took her input and we said, well, we're going to do it sort of after hours or before work, or maybe even do it remotely, closer to where they live. And so we molded it to what they wanted. And in this particular case, we had 2 power salespeople, and they both wanted it closer to where they were. So we moved it up to a northern location, which was closer to where they worked, and the whole training went through a whole lot more smoothly. So these are the kinds of decisions that you can solicit input from your team, and especially for the power salespeople, makes them far more compliant in its successful completion. The number 3 technique is using what we call the minor choice strategy, which, as we talked about last week, which is to light their power candle but not extinguishing yours. If you light an unlit candle, as we talked about last week, then that candle of yours doesn't become any less bright. You're just sharing that light with them, and their candle is now lit. Think of your power in the same way. If you just give a little bit of it away by letting them or allowing them to make a decision on what we call a minor choice strategy, you can keep your candle fully lit, but also give them a little power, which is exactly what they crave. And like we said before, they are not craving your power, they're craving power of their own, however they get it. So for example, using the minor choice strategy is when assigning tasks to power reps or power sales reps, tell them the assignment that needs to be done, and then use this minor choice kind of strategy. Let's say you need a sales report to your boss by Wednesday, for example. So you ask the salesperson, you say, well, when can you have this sales report to me? Can you get it to me by Friday or the following Monday? Which do you prefer? It's sort of the alternate close, as I'm sure a lot of us have learned through the years, but it's the same sort of thing. You're passing the responsibility for that minor choice. It doesn't really matter what day they get it in, because even if they hand it in on Monday, you still have another day to prepare it and send it off to your boss by Wednesday. I would not give them the minor choice strategy of Friday and Monday when you need it by Monday at 5 o'clock. So you got to be careful of how you do this. And maybe the way that you do it is you actually sell them on one or the other. Say, well, if you send me the weekly report a little bit sooner, you could send it to me on Friday. That way you don't have to do it over the weekend. Or you could submit it to me on Monday. Either way is fine. Which do you prefer? So, like I said, both choices are appropriate in this case because you need it by Wednesday. So those are just a very, very few. There's hundreds of examples that we can use. But think of using that kind of thing with your power salespeople, and it's very, very effective. Not only motivating them, but sharing your power, lighting their candle at the same time. And our 4th and our last technique here is to give away your power and maintain authority by using what we call the motivational leadership by questions. Now, there's one thing that's very true, is that people's happiness, by and large, are in direct proportion to how many things in their life that are within their control. Like, if you can't control the traffic patterns, or if you're late for work and there's all of a sudden a terrible car accident and you can't get to where you need to go, you get very frustrated and upset because you can't control that situation. You're not in control. Plus, you're going to be late, and you're probably frustrated about that as well. So use this basic human psychological tenet to your advantage by not necessarily knowing the right answers, but knowing the right questions. And how we do this is this. You actually motivate your salespeople more by not having all the answers, but by getting those answers from them. And the quicker that you can remove yourself as a toll booth that all your salespeople need to pass through for your decision or for your answer, I think the better off you're going to be. And the more empowered they will feel, especially the power salesperson. So for the power salesperson, they feel especially important by solving their own problems instead of you solving their problems for them. And if they need a little extra help, maybe integrate your ideas with theirs, but give them ownership of the ideas. Like, let's say with your power rep, they have a particularly thorny problem in their territory about an account that they can't get in to see or things of that nature. And all you can do is you can sit down with them, you can talk to them about it and say, hey, listen, I know this has been a very difficult account for you to get in and talk to the right decision maker on. What do you suggest? What would be the best way to get in? Let's start thinking creatively about how the best way is for you to get in to see that decision maker in order to close some new business. So if you problem solve and ask them their opinion instead of you just telling them what they should do, the power salesperson is far more likely, plus you've got two heads working on the problem as opposed to just one, chances are pretty likely you're going to come up with a solution, either you or them, one of you or together. Remember, two heads are oftentimes better than one, and that's why you are there, is to provide support, provide ideas, to draw out these ideas from them, but then not claim credit for the idea. Push that credit, especially if it's successful, back on them. And power salespeople love this, and it's a great way in which to motivate them. And what you really want here, and I think this goes for all your salespeople, is that if you make your salespeople independent of you, but not dependent on you, you empower them and motivate them because they feel a part of the decision-making process. But also it lightens your burden. You don't always have to come up with all the answers. Some of the best ideas that I ever had as a sales manager were the ones that came from my power salespeople. So listen to what they have to say. Filter through all the inflammatory language, maybe the insults and the swearing oftentimes. These people are very opinionated. But filter through all that and really listen to what they have to say, because chances are they've got some very good ideas. And by maintaining that authority and by using leadership by questions, it's a very, very effective way for you to motivate them and get the both of you ultimately what you want. So 4 techniques as a sales manager to motivate the power salesperson is, first off, sales manager doesn't have to win every confrontation with that power sales rep. They should also use motivational leadership by lead by being led. And also, a very effective technique is to use the minor choice strategy to light their power candle while keeping yours fully lit at the exact same time. And last but not least, our 4th tip here is to give away your power and maintain authority by using motivational leadership by questions and asking them questions about a particular situation so that the two of you brainstorm together and come up with the right solution, or at least a tangible solution that will move the sale forward so that you can both achieve the success that you so truly desire. Now, if you or your company is seriously interested in learning how to motivate your sales team, get more sales, and lead your sales team to sales superstardom, contact us directly at info@salesmanagementmastery.com for more information on our live sales manager training seminars and workshops. Once again, that's info@salesmanagementmastery.com for more information on our live training seminars and workshop for sales managers. That's it for this week's episode of Sales Management Mastery. Until next time, wishing you ultimate sales management success.
You've been listening to the sales management, motivational, and leadership training expert, Ralph Burns. Ralph invites you to discover the sales manager training secrets that will unleash a flood of new sales from your sales team. Visit salestraininggift.com and you'll get instant access to your choice of life-changing sales manager training techniques, only taught in the internationally acclaimed Sales Management Mastery Academy online community. Go now to salestraininggift.com. Sales Management Mastery.